Episode 271, Planning Exit Routes Since 2001, When Easy Isn't Easy. Well, hey, friend, welcome to another episode of the Not Your Average Autism Mom podcast. I am your host, Shannon Urquiola, and as always, thanks for fitting me into your schedule today for a few minutes. Trust me, I realize that isn't always easy, and I want you to know how much I appreciate it. And I hope that you find value every time you come and spend a little bit of time with me. So that's the reason I keep these episodes short and to the point, because I get it. I live this life right alongside you day in and day out. So today we're talking about something that I think we as autism moms understand very deeply: when easy isn't easy. And sometimes the hardest part isn't even the event itself, it's carrying the anticipation beforehand, because there are so many things that might look simple from the outside looking in. Summer vacations, school graduations, family visits, going to the airport, sitting through a ceremony, staying at a hotel, even something as simple as grabbing a couple things from the grocery store. And behind the scenes, our brains are doing Olympic level mental gymnastics, trying to prepare for every possible scenario before it even happens. And honestly, I think that's why so many of us we feel exhausted all the time, not because of what is happening, but because of everything we're mentally preparing ourselves for. Because, as you know, we don't just go somewhere, right? We mentally prepare like we're coordinating a small military operation. Before you leave the house, you've already, packed backup snacks and thought about noise levels and prepared for meltdowns and located bathrooms and planned escape routes. Wondered if there would be too many people. So, these are the things that we're doing before anything even takes place. We've checked, the vibe of our children 47 times and mentally rehearsed what you'll do if the whole thing goes sideways. And then sometimes the thing goes completely fine, like absolutely fine. And you still come home exhausted because your nervous system stayed in fight or flight the entire time, anyways. And honestly, nobody talks about this part of autism motherhood. The exhaustion is real and it's invisible. People, see you sitting at a graduation ceremony, or they see you on vacation or at the family gathering. They see the pictures online. What they don't see is the amount of emotional preparation it took just to get there. And this episode came to be because I was just coaching one of the moms that I work with. And during our conversation, I realized something that I think applies to so many of us. We spend a huge amount of our lives mentally preparing for things that haven't even happened yet. Blair was overwhelmed thinking about she has family coming into town, graduation, traveling, her house, future plans, all of it uncertain. And I said something to her that really stuck with me afterwards. I told her, your brain is treating future possibilities like current emergencies. And honestly, I think all of this kind of hits a little harder this time of year, because some of you listening are already stressed about events that are still weeks or even months away. And that's exactly what Blair was doing too. Her brain was already living inside future moments that hadn't even arrived yet. Graduation, travel, family, right? All of the unknowns. And as moms raising children or adults on the spectrum, we do this all the time because our brains are constantly trying to get ahead of discomfort before it arrives. But Can we just talk honestly a minute about May and the end of school and summer upon us? Because this time of year can feel mentally overwhelming for us in ways that most people never even think about. Everyone else is posting schools out for the summer, pool days, vacation countdowns, beach trips, summer bucket lists. And meanwhile, you're over here mentally trying to calculate how everybody is going to emotionally survive the loss of routine for the next 10 weeks. Because honestly, we know that summer is not always relaxing when your child really depends on structure and predictability. Now, your brain is spinning with what camps can they realistically handle? Which ones can handle them? Will ESY be enough support? How many schedule changes can they tolerate? What happens on the days that there's nothing planned? How am I supposed to balance everyone's completely different needs all summer, right? How many hours into summer break before somebody in this house completely unravels? And then on top of that, you have therapists that go on vacation. Schedules change, bedtimes drift, sleep gets weird, siblings are home, maybe they're home from college, extended family starts expecting more visits and activities, and people want to drop by. Everyone wants to make memories. And somehow you become responsible for carrying the emotional weight of everyone's entire summer experience. Do any of you feel that? That's exhausting. And I think what makes it even harder is that many of us can never fully relax into the moment because mentally we're already anticipating the next thing. So that mental load starts long before summer actually arrives, anyways. So while everyone else sees summer approaching, many of you likely feel your nervous system quietly starting to brace. And please know that does not mean you're failing. It means your brain has learned to stay alert because unpredictability has felt hard before. But just because your brain prepares for worst case scenarios does not mean worst case scenarios are actually coming. And that's important because over time, many of us stop realizing just how much mental energy you're spending trying to prevent discomfort before it even arrives. And that distinction matters so much because when you've lived enough unpredictable moments, enough public meltdowns, enough dysregulation, enough hard experiences, your brain starts trying to prevent every future hard moment before it arrives. You become a professional discomfort preventer. Not because you're dramatic, not because you're weak or you're too anxious, but because unpredictability has hurt you before. So now your brain thinks, if I can just prepare enough, maybe I can prevent the hard thing from happening. And honestly, sometimes that preparation does help. I mean, let's be real. Half of us have emergency bags in our cars that could survive a natural disaster. Some of y'all could emotionally qualify for TSA pre-check at this point. You know where every bathroom exit, quiet corner, side door within 90 seconds of entering a building, right? That's why this is called planning exit routes since 2001, friend. But here's the problem. Your body cannot relax when your brain thinks it's responsible for preventing every possible hard moment. It's exhausting. And I think that's what makes this especially difficult is that people don't see the mental load because so much of it happens internally. Maybe you're sitting at your daughter's softball game, right? I did that for years. But mentally, you're wondering, how long can your son handle the noise? Will the concession line be too long? What if the schedule changes? What if it rains? What if the bathrooms are crowded? What if he gets overstimulated halfway through game 2? What if everyone else wants to stay longer? What if you have to leave suddenly? Where are they going to want to eat after? And then with that question, a million more thoughts start, right? So even though you're physically sitting there, mentally you are running laps. Or maybe it's vacation. Other families are excited about the beach house and relaxing and slowing down. Meanwhile, you are mentally calculating sleep arrangements, food issues, Wi Fi access, routine disruption, how far the nearest pharmacy is, whether the hotel curtains are too thin, if your child will tolerate sharing a room, and how many days it will take you to emotionally recover when you get home. And then in the middle of it all, someone says to you, relax, you're on vacation. And you honestly want to say, listen, lady, I have emotionally prepared for 14 possible disasters before we started breakfast. Or maybe it's something smaller, like maybe it's school orientation night. And everybody else is walking around collecting schedules and smiling while you're internally thinking, how loud is the cafeteria? Will he have enough support? What happens if they change staff? Will she get lost? Will people understand her? Will he eat? Will he shut down? Will she mask all day and completely unravel at home later? And that's the part people don't understand. We are often carrying multiple emotional timelines all at once. So think about that. You're in today while simultaneously preparing for tomorrow and next week and 3 possible backup scenarios. Or listen, since it's graduation season right now, right? Let's talk about that because many of you likely have invitations to family or friends' graduations. And while everyone else is excited and emotional, you are preparing for the parking situation, the crowds, worrying how long the ceremony will last, whether your child can even tolerate sitting that long. What happens if somebody claps loudly behind them? Whether they'll refuse to walk in, whether they'll get overwhelmed, right? And whether you'll end up watching half the ceremony from the hallway and leaving them at home. This is a whole nother episode, probably, but leaving them at home is not even a consideration because, well, that would make you a bad mom, right? No, it doesn't. But like I said, that is for another episode. But the wild part is sometimes none of the things even happen, right? But your nervous system prepared for all of them anyway. And I want to talk about summer travel for just a minute before I move on, because we absolutely do not pack for vacations the same way other families do, right? Other people are packing flip flops and bathing suits and sunscreen. You're packing safe foods and backup chargers and medications and headphones and extra clothes and iPads and snacks for every possible scenario, right? And enough, emotional support supplies to survive a category 5 hurricane. And then there's the hotel room stress. Will they sleep? Will the air conditioner sound different? Will the curtains close all the way? Will they tolerate sharing a room? What about, will anyone in the hotel complain if they're up at 3 a.m.? And meanwhile, your spouse is like, babe, it will be fine. And you immediately snap back. Listen, I have mentally stayed in this hotel for 3 nights already, and we haven't even checked in. So just think about that. We're in today while we're simultaneously preparing for, all the things that are in the future. And after a while, survival mode starts feeling normal. Somewhere along the way, many of you stopped experiencing life while it was happening, and you started experiencing life through preparation. And, that line really hit me hard when I was thinking about this episode, because I know that there were years of my life with Jordan where I never fully relaxed anywhere, even when things were going well, because my nervous system stayed braced, waiting for the next thing. And that's important to talk about because some of you listening have not truly relaxed in years. Not because you don't want to, but because your brain learned that staying alert felt safer. And that kind of chronic anticipation affects everything. It affects your sleep, your patience, your body, your marriage, your friendships, your ability to be present, your tension headaches and energy levels and your irritability. Some of you are waking up already emotionally exhausted because your nervous system never fully powered down overnight. And then you feel guilty because sometimes, like I said, the thing that you worried about doesn't ever happen. The outing goes fine. The appointment goes smoothly. The vacation works out. The graduation is beautiful, right? And then we think, why was I so stressed? Because your body was preparing for impact the entire time. That's why. Some of you are already stressed about events that are still weeks or months away. And honestly, this is one of the biggest things that I coach moms through because most women don't even realize how overloaded their nervous systems are anymore. You just think that this is just motherhood or this is just my personality. This is just who I am. No, friend, a lot of this is survival mode. And listen, I'm not saying preparation is bad, right? Preparation helps. Routines help. Planning helps, especially in our world. But there's a difference between being prepared and emotionally living in future disasters before they even happen. And that's where so many of you get stuck, trying to control discomfort before it arrives, trying to mentally solve next month while sitting in today, trying to emotionally carry every future moment all at once. And y'all, that is just too much. One of the things I talked about in the reset workshop is how hard it is to heal survival mode while your brain is constantly living 3 steps ahead of your actual life. Because your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real current emergency and a future imagined scenario that you keep replaying over and over again. Your body responds to both. That's why your chest tightens. That's why your shoulders stay tense. That's why you feel exhausted before the day even fully begins. And I think one of the mindset shifts for us is learning that you don't have to solve every future moment before it arrives. You only have to handle the moment that you're actually in. And yes, sometimes hard things will happen. That's real. That's part of this journey. But you have also survived every hard moment that's already happened too. And that matters because you figure things out. You adjust, you adapt, you recover, you keep going. And I think many of us need to spend less time asking, what if this goes wrong? And more time reminding yourself, if something goes wrong, I'll handle it one step at a time. Because that thought feels very different in your body. And maybe today, this is your reminder. The goal isn't to never prepare. The goal is to stop living your entire life emotionally inside of tomorrow. And listen, if this episode resonated with you, this is exactly the kind of work we do inside our private membership and workshops like the Reset Workshop, because you deserve support. You are carrying so much mentally and emotionally every single day. And sometimes the most healing thing in the world is finally having someone help you put to words what you've been feeling all along. So I hope this episode maybe was a light bulb for you. I hope you're leaving with something to work on to make your days a little easier. Thank you again for spending part of your day with me. If this episode made you feel, you know, understood or just a little less alone, I would love it if you would leave a review and share it with another mom who maybe needs to hear this today. And remember, you do not have to carry every future moment all at once. Until next week, have a great week ahead. And remember, above all, you, mama, are doing amazing at this mom thing.